Welcome to Network Roundtable. This week, our +1 superhero is David, joining us from SEO Dojo, and along with him, his partner and +1 sidekick, Terry. We are talking this week all about effectiveness.
I remember visiting my grandfather's farm in Alberta, Canada. All around the farm, they had hand pumps installed to provide water to the sheep, clean, and any number of other tasks this city slicker did not understand. I still remember the first time I tried to get water from that hand pump. I took a few pumps on the handle and nothing happened. My grandfather came over and patiently showed me how it would take a bit more work to prime the pump. As a small boy, that was a lot of work. Once the pipe was full and the pump was primed, it became easy to keep the water flowing. I stopped pumping and went to get my dad to show him what I had learned. When we got back to the pump, the pipe was cleared and I had to prime it all over again. Team Troopers hopes that the things you learn today will prime your pump. It's up to you to keep the inspiration flowing.
Welcome to Network Roundtable. I'm so excited about this week's show. Sorry, I was on studio mode. I probably sounded really weird there for a half a second. All right, so we are going to get right to it. We have not, because of some green room difficulties, had a chance to explain to this week's +1 superhero and +1 sidekick how the opening of this show works. So, David and Terry, here's how it works. The opening of the show is called, the first part is called Super Sidekick Admiration, and the second part is Sidekick Super Admiration. As if we didn't get the two of you guys all touchy and feely on Monday, we're doing it again. This is the softer side of business, after all. So here's how these two work. Super Sidekick Admiration. David, you are going to tell us exactly why you think Terry's awesome and why you chose him to be your sidekick today. When he's done, Terry, you're going to do Sidekick Super Admiration, and you're going to tell us all the reasons why David rocks, and that's basically our opener. So, David, time for Super Sidekick Admiration. Take it away.
Well, I guess, like I say, Terry and I have been working together. It's probably about 6 years or something like that now. Interestingly enough, I guess since we're going this route, we actually met under pretty bad circumstances. He was kind of barking at me on a public forum. I was kind of barking back at him. I realized we had a common friend we knew, so I talked to them, and they said, actually, you should talk to this guy. You'd probably get along with him. So, we got over that, and we started talking, got over our differences, and here we are 6 years later. We've been talking to each other every day of the week, working together for 6 years. There's a lot of things that makes Terry awesome. The first part, of course, is the fact that, he's been at this, longer than I have. So it's funny, I kind of think of myself as his sidekick a lot of the time, not really the other way around, because he's actually been in the business a couple of years longer than I have. He's got a ton of experience. But I guess, we're talking about effectiveness and stuff in business in general. He's also just not the kind of person that's going to accept everything at face value. He's not the kind of person that just, doesn't have the ability to be a critical thinker. He's always critically thinking. He's always pushing boundaries, and it doesn't matter. His best friend in the world could tell him something. If he doesn't agree, he's going to tell him he doesn't agree. He's not going to just, buddy up and go along with it. He's not that kind of person. That's people I like. Because if I'm making mistakes or if I'm missing something, I want someone that's a friend or someone I work with a lot to be able to say, hey, whoa, stop, think about this, and challenge me. I don't want people that, you don't want yes men in the world. You want people that challenge you when you might be wrong or to disagree. He's just that kind of person. And again, he's just got a ton of experience and a huge Rolodex he can reach out to and talk to. So it's just been a great experience, and that's why I'm still with him today.
Thank you very much. All right. And Terry.
You're muted, buddy.
Yeah, I was sorry about that. I don't know. Dave and I, like he said, met kind of under weird circumstances. Just just pointed out to him on a forum in a public place that, you know, he might have thought things through a little bit further before he chose his domain name. Because he chose one that was basically, it would be an action on my site that I had that was, I would say at the time, pretty well known. Yeah, just brought it to his attention. Then when I kind of ream someone like that, I'll go back and have a look at, you know, when they post something, I went and had a look at what he had to say, and it made a lot of sense to me. Whereas most of what I read, I just kind of say, yeah, I just wasted 3 minutes of my life here, so let's move on. But Dave, yeah, and then, like he said, mutual friend, basically, when Dave wrote me, I actually, and said that this person had said it would be a good idea to contact me, I contacted him, and he had really good things to say. And I think it's important that you always have an open mind. So, you know, I decided I'd talk to Dave, and it turned out that, you know, we had a lot of the same goals for the future, a lot of it, in that we kind of thought what passed for teaching was not cutting it, so we wanted to try something a little bit different. That's why we don't have at the dojo a set curriculum, because, you know, it changes every day, so you just make that the curriculum and talk about it. Other than that, is that a good answer?
That's a great answer. Actually, that makes a lot of sense, what you're saying about the dojo, because it fits with your name. I mean, what is training within a dojo other than just the ability to respond to what's coming at you? And so I like your explanation about not having a set curriculum.
Well, Google turns on a dime every few weeks. You know what I mean? There is no book to that black box, and so you're constantly testing and improving, and Google's moving the goalposts every couple of weeks, so you really can't, you know. It's like they say about writing computer programming books. You write one, you publish it, and it's garbage a week later, because by the time you published it and got it out, you know, that programming language has now changed, and so that's why a lot of bookstores won't even start them anymore.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so a few weeks back, we got a lot of pressure from our audience. They wanted to see the Super Sidekick Admiration and Sidekick Super Admiration carried over to that week's co-hosts. And we don't have a name for it yet, but we are going to honor your wishes as an audience. So it's now time for John to tell us why he thinks Kristen rocks, and Kristen to tell us why she thinks John's all awesome. So John, go ahead. You're muted.
No, you're muted, John.
I was trying to be nice and be muted, so I got carried away. Okay. Yeah, you know, first met Kristen when we were doing a meetup, and she kind of volunteered to drive all the way from Arizona to come to the meeting. And we were kind of, wow, you know, she really goes to the extreme here sometimes to get involved, and I've never actually made it because of all the other things that she's involved in, which seems like she's everywhere you want to look, she pops up. But it's her bubbly honesty. It's you can always count on her to cheer you on and support you, and I think that's one of the great things about having her around. You always know it's going to be a positive experience when she shows up. So I think that's what's really fun about her.
Thank you. Okay, well, I love John and Marilyn. From that first meetup. Well, first of all, it was in Oceanside, and that's hometown. So I was like, oh my gosh, I so want to come and meet you guys. And I was all for it, but yes, like John said, I had some other things come up. I was bummed. Still would love to come out there sometime. But I've just been so impressed with what they have done with their show. It is amazing how you guys, I'll speak to you, John, now, how you bring it to the community in which you live. We talk about online communities a lot of the time, but we don't necessarily talk about our local communities, and that is very admirable to me, because you're not only doing it online, but you're bringing the online to your local. And that is just, yeah. And I love hanging out with you at the Bill and Ammons Hangouts. I can always trust what you have to say is like based on your work. You're in there doing it. It's not just philosophy. It's not just theory. You're doing it. And the things that you're talking about are real, and they really help.
Thank you.
Good deal. All right, so we've given admiration all around for the team so far. I do want to shout out, we got quite an active audience so far. We got Jessica Maynard, William Rock has shown up, Cheryl Deuce is here, wrangling comments and keeping everybody active. We've got a new one, Farina's Parse. Please forgive me if I pronounced your name wrong. Kristen, do you know how to properly Farinaz. All right, there we go. Thank you. We've got Jessica Maynard is welcoming Farinaz and telling her that Network Roundtable is a fun place to learn. We love that. Omi Cito, Creative Katrina, and Zara Altair. Haven't seen Zara around here for a while, so welcome, Zara. We're glad to have you here. There, house cleaning. We're ready to start attacking the word effectiveness. So we're going to go through past, present, future, and business. Those are our 4 sections in the remainder of this hour. And I'm going to turn it over to our co-hosts, and I'm going to just sit here and do tech for a while.
Okay. All right. John, do you want to start, or shall I?
Oh, go ahead. But whatever you want.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay. So I'm just going to go right into this. What are some of the things that you've seen small businesses and bloggers do with online marketing and SEO that have been ineffective?
Lots. It's what keeps us in business. Again, effectiveness is kind of a large encompassing word, because we're not really narrowing anything down. So I think one thing I think we discussed sort of off there before, one thing I don't think that a lot of people do enough of is tracking. If it's a marketing campaign, if it's your website, if it's online, offline, mechanisms like John does. John's got great synergy with his online to his offline, but a lot of people aren't tracking that. Right? If it's a blog post, are you tracking over time? Here was the goal. Here's what we set out to accomplish with that blog post. Like, did we take that and did we have a set of goals ahead of time? Did we have things we were going to measure? Is it comments on that blog post? Is it shares on certain networks? Is it whatever? What is the KPI? What's the key performance indicators that we're using to measure if this is successful? And if you're not doing that, then really you're just throwing things like, what against the wall, as they say, because you can't really go back in the future and say, okay, this worked, this didn't, why didn't this work, why did this work? So you can replicate that, build on that, and the continuous improvement process keeps going forward. So I think a lack of proper goal setting and measurements around anything, from blog posts to marketing strategies to Facebook campaigns, anything you're doing, if people aren't really setting out those goals and how they're going to measure it ahead of time and then tracking those data points afterwards, you don't really know. Because, you said, oh, we got more likes than usual. Well, was that a goal? Maybe the goal is to get more subscribers. So did it accomplish that goal? Well, no, it didn't. But this one did. Okay, so why did this one? So we can replicate it and continually improve the process that we're using to be effective. You know what I mean? So one as far as and planning in general. That whole concept.
Can you explain a little bit more about the KPI?
But yeah, well, key performance indicators basically is again, you're setting goals, and so what are the data points that are going to the indications of the success of what that is. Again, is it a product you're selling? Is it a marketing strategy? Is it a social campaign? Is it a blog post? It really doesn't matter. But you need some sort of what are we trying to achieve, and when you establish that, well, how do we know that we've achieved it? What are the things, what are the, again, is it likes, is it traffic, is it links, is it, new subscribers, is it newsletter signups, whatever. What is it you've got as primary and secondary points, of what you're trying to accomplish, and those become your performance indicators. Again, it could be sales of a product. If it's a marketing campaign around a product, okay, we want to sell 200 of these or whatever, and did that accomplish, and did you track that, and how are you tracking that? And so if those aren't really set out, you become interested in the future, because you're just throwing things against the wall. You really have no sense of, why did we do it? What was the point of it? You didn't just say, okay, well, get the writer to slap a blog post up, and then you started, well, why did you do it? You paid someone somewhere along the line, even if it's your own time. Time is worth money. So it's got a financial reason to it. So how do you measure that cost-benefit, equation?
So what it sounds like, what I'm hearing is that it comes down to the why. Like, why are you doing this? Would that be accurate?
Speaking, you know what I mean? Yeah, for the most part, is what are the goals behind it? It's not just, well, I felt like writing something this morning. And that's fine too. That'll happen. But when you're doing marketing campaigns or social campaigns or what blog posts or things of that nature that are technically business related, you need some sort of goal. Why am I doing it? What is the point of this exercise? And if you don't have that laid out as to why, like you're saying, the why that we're doing it, measuring any effectiveness or replicating it or improving upon it in the future, it becomes next to useless. So you're just, again, throwing money, take that money, just go flush it down the toilet and be done with it.
You linked me to a really cool movie, The Naked Truth.
Yes.
And I watched that several times, actually. And there was some really cool things that you just said that just made me think about one of the parts in that movie, and now all of a sudden it's escaped my brain. So it must not have been meant for this section. Terry, do you want to?
They were talking about just advertising and how, people have less trust in businesses these days, and the world of just straight out advertising isn't as important these days as marketing and talking to your consumers and getting involved with your consumers. And even the workplace. They had the Zappos guys in there as an example. And I know that's something we were talking about the other day too, is the Zappos guys. And how they create that environment where people work. And this is about core values, and then that's interesting. That's why we talked about Zappos. That the guy was even saying, they'll fire people not because of job performance all the time. Sometimes it's because the core values of that person doesn't fit with the business itself, and that's the reason they let them go.
I remembered what it was. The flushing the money, when he said that.
Yes.
Because one of the points in that video, and I'll put a link in there after the show, but it was that, like, one of the people were saying to invest more money into the product rather than advertising. Make sure you have a good product. And then it sells itself. Would you?
And investing into the process in the company. Like a lot of these people, it seems counterintuitive that a big company would stop, would spend money trying to get greener, let's say, and more environmentally conscious. But what they found is by doing this, it actually saved them money in the process of manufacturing and other things, as well as bringing that company to light as a company that is concerned about these things, and that people are very conscious and aware of that kind of thing. And if you're not doing that, it will come to light. And they cited the whole Nike story when Nike got busted for using sweatshops. I don't know, it's probably late 90s or something like that. But and that their stock went down. I think it was like 17% in the course of a couple of weeks because of that. So you can either get ahead of the wave, the trend, and be aware of these things, of what your consumer cares about. Or you can just keep advertising and trying to blow smoke up their backside and hope for the best. And I think that's probably not good.
Thank you. Would you like to add anything to that, Terry?
Yeah, Terry, where do people go wrong, buddy?
Just the way they start. Yeah, I found that in the industry we work in, a lot of people think that everybody has the same size foot, basically. In other words, one size fits all, whereas every website is unique. Each each SERP is unique as well. So, and they don't have a strategy that can really manage that. And, part of the strategy is, like Dave said, you start with goals and then you figure out how do we quantify that we've reached the goal, etc. No, I find that, especially with small business, a lot of that, they spend most of their day just day to day running the business. They don't really have time for that. That's unfortunate that, they should take that little bit of time, because in the end, they become more productive because they know why they're doing things.
Very good. John, you have a smile on your face. Oh, we need to unmute.
Muted.
I keep forgetting that.
I did that so many times.
Yeah. No. The hard part that I see, and that I think that I keep trying to challenge people to think about, and is that oftentimes the goals and whether you're meeting your goals are oftentimes a lot of work, and so that gets skipped. So do you have any ideas on ways that somebody can manage that so that they don't skip the feedback and the looking and seeing how they're progressing? Do you have any thoughts on that, either of you, to help people? Because that really is where people sort of forget that, and because it's more work to go back and go, oh gee, how am I doing, and it is critical, as you're saying. So any other thoughts on that part of the process, on finding ways to effectively monitor what you're doing?
Gary, you want to go first?
Yeah, the main thing is picking how you're gonna, the nature of the business. For instance, if it's offline to online, then you got to have a coupon or something that's transferable, right? Mm-hmm. That's where, and I think a lot of businesses don't really think about tracking it, because they figure, I'll just count the money at the end of the day and that'll do it. But it doesn't always, because you're not really getting, you're not really quantifying all the steps to get to the cash in the till. The big thing in advertising is, 80% of what I don't do is, doesn't do anything for me. It's finding the 20% that does and concentrating on that. And once you know that 20%, rinse and repeat. That's trying to expand the market.
David, do you have any thoughts there?
Again, it goes back to establishing why you're doing what you're doing. You know what I mean? And you'll have what I would call primary and secondary conversion points. Again, it's selling the product, your primary points, and secondary maybe getting newsletter signups. It's the primary goal, getting more Facebook followers, let's say, and the secondary one is maybe some likes. But again, you could use a spreadsheet, you could use various tools out there, and I don't think the methodology is important as the process. Just being aware that what you're doing has, in business at least, has to have some sort of goal to it, has to have something that you're moving and working towards. Because again, that continuous improvement process, meaning, even if you're number one at something, you don't sit on your laurels and wait for your competitors to take, you've got to be continuously improving your business, no matter what element we're talking about. You're continuously trying to improve it. So the process can change as far as how you're going to track it. I don't care if you're using a spreadsheet. You could have a spreadsheet if it's your blog, let's say. You know, and you have a column for tweets and traffic and this and that you can lay out and look at down the road when you're starting to create other pieces. But whatever it is, again, you're setting out your KPI, you're figuring out what the goals of the activity is and how you track it. That's probably personal. You know, you don't want to be, I don't think people should, you know, I don't like to say, hey, use this tool or that tool or this spreadsheet or something else, because you've got to be comfortable with the tools and the things that you're using to track or to find data. And if you're not comfortable with that tool, you're less likely to use it because you're frustrated or there's a high learning curve or whatever. So I think what you're using probably isn't as important as getting your head around the fact that, you know, I need to track things, I need to look at things so that 6 months down the road or whatever, when we have this next sale or when we're doing this next campaign or this next big blog post that we want to get out to the media, that you can look at the last times you've done it and see why it worked and why it didn't. You know, I mean, last either. Always think, even if something does well and you make a bunch of money, how can it be better? You know, I'm never one to sit there and go, you know, that went well, oh, great, and just leave it at that. It's like, well, it went great, but how can we make it better next time? Again, back to the continuous improvement process.
Could you explain to some of our audience who are new to all these tracking tools, can you either explain or like point a direction for someone who's new to this and they just have never used any kind of tool like this before? Where would be a good place to look?
Spreadsheets is probably the best place to start, you know, because again, you can lay out a spreadsheet the way you want. You know what I mean? You can customize that in the way that makes sense to your business. Because also, you know, we start getting into tools. Each of these businesses is going to have different needs, regardless of, even if it's in different markets. You know what I mean? That's certainly, you know what I mean? I'm selling shoes and you're selling, you know, potatoes or something. You know, we're going to have different needs. But even two businesses within that same market are going to have different needs. Okay, they have different staff structures, they have different budgets for things. Even you and your competitor are going to go up, you know, I could work for one client in the shoe world and then work with another client in the shoe world, and they're going to still be different because of how their business is set up, what resources they have with people and tools. And so each, even identically, you know, markets, businesses in the same market are still going to have different needs. So again, you really want to try and customize things, you know, the tools. Sure, but you know, there's stuff like Google Analytics, you know what I mean, if it comes to tracking traffic and things of that nature.
And that's,
you know, there's
free,
all kinds
right?
of social monitoring tools. Yeah, and that's certainly free, and it's, you know, it's a good place for website stuff, at least for your on-site. But you know, there's other tools like, I guess, you know, for tracking buzz. You know, what is there, BuzzStream and things like that. There's all kinds of different things you can use to track mentions, things of that nature. I think my advice in that sort of level is to, again, establish your goals and needs, then go out and look for the tools, and then try a few. You know what I mean? Try some demos on 3 or 4 and say, okay, this one I'm comfortable with. Because again, you start using a tool that you're not comfortable with or that has less likely to use it. So, you know, I think you want to try a few and figure it out. And even on that data point, that's another thing Terry and I often go on about, is that we have people come to us like that, say, which tools should I use? Which is kind of cart before the horse. It's like, no. Figure out what data you're trying to find out. What are the questions? I have questions I need answered. And so now I have these questions. Okay, what data points am I going to need to answer these questions? Okay, now I have this. Okay, now which tools can give me that? You know, people come to us, what tools should I be using? It's like, well, I don't know. What are you trying to do? You know, you can't just grab tools and push the big red button. Hey, I'm successful in business. It doesn't work like that.
So say you have your goals all lined out, but you still don't know, but you know that you want to add in some tracking, and you know about Google Analytics, but you want to explore some more. Is there one that you could recommend to someone that is, you know, just
analytics-wise, I'm not really sure there's anything like off the shelf. Like, I'm sure a lot of our viewers are small business people, so, you know, there's enterprise level stuff, but I don't know, Terry, is there anything really for the small business outside of Google Analytics as far as traffic data goes?
No,
or entrepreneurs?
Myself for big enterprise, yeah. I found the ones that try and copy Google do a pretty crappy job of it. Like, you know, if Google, that's why I prefer on websites that I build, I'll build in my own tracking and just track what I know I'm going to need on the website, right? The one thing that none of these do well is actually track the way someone goes through your website. to get that information out of Google Analytics, major hoops. And you got to be pretty near someone devoted to doing just Google Analytics to do that well and really get the data that you need. And they only go down 3 or 4 levels. So, that's why sometimes just doing it yourself, rolling your own, is the best way. And you also know how you want to collect that data. To me, for a small business, it's probably the easiest place to track stuff is online. Because if worse comes to worse, you pay someone a few dollars to analyze it for you. You also got to remember that every time you're looking at these things that you're not that familiar with, that is time. That's money. So sometimes you got to kind of weigh the two, and when that person can just hand you a report that if you have know your KPIs and you give them to a person who knows Google Analytics, they'll give you that and more at probably a lot less money that you would spend in your own time. That's my opinion. And I don't do Google Analytics. That's Dave, or I pay someone to do it who really understands.
Now that's actually a really good point. That's a really good point. Sorry, go ahead.
No, well, somebody mentioned on the comments there that even a pencil and paper might be effective.
If that's what works for you. Again, comfort zone, right?
Yeah. Keep it simple. Especially if you're a lot of the people I work with are very kind of technophobic, and you mention a spreadsheet to them, their brain will start sparking and stuff. So yeah, pencil and paper. Let's not forget that that you can be pretty basic and still keep track of things. But what I'm also hearing from both of you too is that you might as well not bother doing whatever it is you're trying to do if you don't add that ability to track what you're doing into your process and your steps. So that has to become like just part of it. You just can't skip it at all.
Well, I'll tell you, when tax time comes around, if you haven't been tracking your expenses all year, et cetera, you've got problems. Like, how do you measure business success without your accounting? It's that same thing.
Right.
Imagine not tracking your accounting at all, or balancing your checkbook or whatever. Like, life gets ugly in a hurry when you don't track things.
Because you have to be accountable, right? You have to be accountable to what you're doing. And
you have to be accountable to yourself. Yeah, yeah.
I like what Omicino said on this point, guys. Here's his quote: "Goals are fantasy science fiction unless you have a proper strategy of how to achieve them. And that strategy is going to include everything, including what we're talking about right now."
Right.
Amen. Good job, Omi.
If it's an email campaign, you've got MailChimp and you've got some options. But, again, you also, when it comes to any kind of tool, you need to be comfortable. Like John's saying, I don't care if it's pen and paper. You want to be comfortable. So try a few. You don't want to, you're less apt to properly use a tool effectively if you're constantly looking for how-to videos. You're going, I don't understand the data. What's it telling me? If it's not helping, then it's a useless tool. It's just, it's not worth it.
That was another point that I wanted to bring out, that what you were saying, Terry, and what I hear from actually all three of you. If you're not comfortable with it, use the Rolodex, and find someone who is comfortable with it. Don't think that you have to know everything. You don't have to be an expert in everything.
Never be too proud to say you don't know. And Terry and I do that all the time, you know what I mean? We've been at this for 20 years almost, but we've got a Rolodex, and we come up with something that we're not sure. We reach out, we hit the Rolodex, go, Terry, you don't do this? No, I don't know. Okay, you find out, I'll check my people, you check yours. You come up with that answer. Never be too proud to say, I don't know, so I'm not going to ask. I'm going to look stupid. You're going to look stupid if you don't ask someone.
Mm-hmm. You're going to be swept underneath the rug if you don't ask, because then you're going to not know.
Well, in the dojo community, a lot of people have got more out of the networking and being able, you know, working with other people, finding other people that they can collaborate with. That's what a lot of it has been. The value that people find in it are partially that. And, you know, you go in, someone asks a question, I'll always say 2 or 3 people that, you know, I know are really good at that particular thing. Like that, you know, alone is, you know, that's hard to find.
And I found that even if I don't know things, because a lot of times I don't, I'm just curious, so I go to a lot of events and try to learn as much as I can about everything. And so when something comes up in a conversation, I can say, oh, you know what, that reminds me of something that this other person was saying. I would check him out. And then they come back and they see you as a resource. Even if you weren't able to supply them with the answer, you kind of were, because you gave them indirect wisdom.
Okay, so just in case you didn't pick up on this, we have just been given the Kristen Drysdale social media strategy for ultimate success. If this isn't exactly 10 words of how she owns Google+, I don't know. Yeah. Thank you for giving us your strategy. But she's right.
I've learned it a lot from following these guys, so good job, guys.
Well, yeah, that is great. One of the things that I have personally always thought is you got to be careful who you're listening to too, because there's a lot of stuff going on out there. There's a lot of people standing there talking, and you really got to pick the people carefully that you really listen to. So I think people will often go out there and they'll hear this and they'll hear that, and they're all over the place, and you really gotta pick your people. That's so critical, because if you're not listening to the right people, and finding those right people is a difficult task. You have to find that first right person and then try to branch out to who they're listening to. So that's what kind of Kristen does and says is you listen to who they listen to, and then go out and listen to them too, and expand that network. So who else in the world that you do, Terry or David, do you think that you would recommend that people go out and also listen to?
Who's in your Rolodex?
You have some favorites. Yeah. Well, no, it's just just a quick
the show is just an hour.
This is another person.
For 2 hours. But again, you have different people that are good at different things. So you know what I mean. There's not really, you know what I mean. I'm not going to say this one. That depends. Again, it comes down to what we're talking about. Is it analytics? Is it social media marketing? Is it search marketing? Is it PR? Is it copywriting? Is it all the different facets? We have people in the Rolodex. Like it depends what you're saying. It depends what we're talking about. Like Deborah Mistaller, she's great. At dealing with the press and getting she knows how to target reporters and things of that nature. We got someone like Dan Thies that's really good at that more aggressive style of guerrilla marketing. You've got Bill Slosky if you want to learn about a search engine and then little pieces of how it works. You've got guys like Mike Blumenthal, Andrew Shotland when it comes to local SEO. I think Wissam is one of our go-to guys when it comes to analytics, I guess, right? So, again, it depends what's going through our head and what our need is. It's like, okay, I need something today. I don't know how to do it. All right.
If you watch
it's best to have specialists, not just someone who I can't say, well, go follow this guy because he's a generalist who knows a bunch of general stuff. I have specialists in my Rolodex that know certain things.
Yeah. Okay.
Not to plug Search Geeks, but if you watch that show, those are the people that we listen to.
Yeah. Just go to our YouTube channel, and anybody on that channel that you see us talking to, they're all amazing. So
there's a lot of people that are from when I really started in the business that you don't see around too much. Those are the people that I try and get to speak. Marshall Simmons and people like that. That's who, not too many people know about him because he doesn't blog a lot. He goes to conferences, but not everyone does the conference thing. But he's probably
Which is a great example. Like Marshall Simmons used to be the SEO, lead SEO for the New York Times. So if I'm dealing with a big media type of project, then hey, I know this guy who used to work at the New York Times. You know what I mean? If I'm dealing with maybe auto insurance or something, I used to work with the guys at Money Supermarket, so over in the UK, which is a big, brand over there. Then I'll go and talk to them. Again, your needs are going to dictate who you want to follow. It's not like one of those Gary Vaynerchuk things like, oh, he's awesome, he talks about everything. That's not the kind of people we keep in a Rolodex. We keep people who are very task specific at what they do.
I did see Doc in the audience, though, so you got to be careful with what you say about Gary Vee.
Oh, good Lord. Yes.
I think that was kind of, I guess I didn't ask the question as well as I should have. I think you hit upon what I was getting at. My voice is going gravelly. And that is places you would hang around so that you can get a feel for the kind of people that you would then go to and listen to if you had a specific problem. And you were talking about Search Geeks and watching those kind of videos, and I know I'll come to your dojo shows because I see those other people, and so I assume since they're working with you and you're talking and sharing with them, that then therefore those are good people too. So yeah, I guess the question was good places to hang around so that you can see the kind of people that that you would associate with and consider authoritative in the areas that you work.
I don't think, I know the days of forums are kind of gone, and that's not really a thing anymore, but I do think that Facebook groups, Google Plus communities, things of that nature are the new forums, so to speak. And I think getting involved with some of those, finding small business ones, things of that nature is probably a good start. Because they'll be sharing information in there, and you'll also, having various discussions, and you'll start to learn and meet different people. And you can privately message them and say, hey, I don't mean to bug you, but, and again, it goes back to that thing we talked about earlier, never being afraid to reach out, never being afraid to know that you don't know. It never, someone can tell you to F off, great, but you not at least reach out and say, hey, I answered some questions, or if I threw you $100, could you do something for me? I think, getting involved in communities in various social worlds, probably, like I said, Google Plus or Facebook are probably more appropriate than like Twitter. But get involved in those kind of communities, I think, is probably a good idea. It's, the modern day forums.
I've got one of my friends, Aaron Segal, messaging me privately. He's like, how do we get a hold of SEO Dojo? How do we get there? So if you guys could put the link in the stream, that would be super.
Sure, we'll do that, but there is this thing called Google. They're saying, you're searching, you've got a little box like this, and you put words in it, and you hit enter, and it pops up. But anyways, yeah, we'll put it on the show page.
You can talk to it now, too, Dave. You don't even
that's right,
have
that's right. Conversational search. That's right. You can talk to it as well now. That's right.
I had another question. You talked about Zappos before, and you mentioned it earlier about the core values. And my question is, how important do you think it is to find those people that you resonate with, their core values? How important is that to your strategy to be effective?
Well, what do you mean, as far as like, just do they beat their wife or dog or something?
No, like, okay, so like if you
we need to
if
define
you're working with someone that you don't resonate with, that you don't have the same core values, is it possible to be as effective, or is that pretty?
I think that probably would get in the way at some point, but it depends on the need. Is this someone I just need to work with for a couple of hours to over something, or is this someone I'm working with on a long-term basis on projects and things of that nature? And I mean, somebody likes, the Tragically Hip and I don't, or they have different, they're a Buddhist and I'm a Buddhist and they're a Christian or something. I don't think that's going to get in the way, but especially in shorter-term things. But if you've got someone, let's say, stuff. If I've got someone whose core values are to sort of try and cheat the system or to, you know, what we call spamming Google, etc. If they have those kind of business core values in that market that I work in that are different than mine, I'm probably going to not work with them because I don't believe in going about it that way. I have my own beliefs in how I want to approach it. So on that level, yeah, it's probably going to get in the way, and I don't care. But again, I hate to keep going back to situational, but it always is. This is business. It's always situational. So there are going to be times I think that core values might get in the way of effectiveness, and other times it might not matter at all. You know.
How do you feel about that, Terry?
Do you think people's core values can get in the way of getting things done?
Yeah, for me, it's really important. Like, you know, I've been in this business 20 years. I never worked with anyone before Dave. I mean, no one. For that reason, like, I did, after Dave and I had an agency, didn't really work for us. We couldn't get enough, really, for both of us. So I moved on, and I lasted in an agency about 3 months. And just said, yeah, okay, this ain't going to work. And it was mainly because of the core values, like, just weren't anywhere as close. And, yeah, it's important.
Thank you. I think so too. Yeah, I've been learning that one pretty strongly lately. That is not easy for me to work with people when we just don't align. It's easier for me to do a good job for people when I feel like I'm able to put myself into their product.
Yeah, with me and Dave, it was a lot of that. Like, we believe in the same things. We work really well together because what we both are really our best. I guess what we're best at is the other guy is, you know, that's probably not his best thing. So between the two of us, we cover a lot of ground. That's why we were good as an agency, just couldn't find enough people that pay what it takes to have both of us working for them. That's the tough part. It's expensive.
No, you could hear us. You should hear us, Kristen. Sometimes we'd be in meetings with a client and literally argue with each other, and our clients loved it because they felt they were getting the best from us because it wasn't a yes man, yes sir thing where we just agree and we're some unified front. No, we'd be in a conference call with a meeting and, you know, a client would say something, and I'd say, well, we should go this way. And Terry would go, so we should go maybe this way. Oh, really? You think so? You know, and then, but when we go at each other like that, the best product for the client comes out at the end of the day.
Yeah, we're just,
you know what I mean?
that's
so
how
I think, yeah, it's good to have offsetting talents and approaches.
It's like you're exploring
so we may not always
everything.
agree on things, but we you know, we may not always agree on a strategy out of the gate, but philosophically about how we go about marketing and building businesses, we agree on that fundamentally. So I think that's the core of what Dave and I do together.
Yeah, in our core business, the two of us figure out things a lot quicker together than we would separate as well. Like, you know, Dave doesn't have to go and read stuff now. I just have to go and tell him the nonsense that's out there. And we, you know, have it together pretty quick. Saves Dave having to go out and read that stuff, I guess.
So if we were going to break this down into, like, I kind of wanted to, like, think of it in a picture because I'm a visual person. So if I'm going to think of the word effectiveness and break that down into the elements. I think
your Venn diagram? Yes.
Yeah, So we have, like, a cohesive strategy. Tracking.
Didn't we come up with something? Yeah, that's good. When we have goals, then the strategy, then implementation, which would be action.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You know, then tracking, then analysis, meaning analyzing at the end of it all. Did the goal we set out with at the beginning of this process, where did we end up at the end of it? And then you just loop that back all around into what you would call the continuous improvement process. Right? So what do we just have? We have goals, strategy, planning, implementation, tracking, analysis, and there you go. You know, for me, that's the process that you would use in your Venn diagram and just keep looping it around in a circle.
All right, I'm gonna make
And then
it.
once you get to your analysis, if you reached your goals or which, you know, how effective you were at reaching those goals, now you set some new goals and start the whole thing over again.
Kind of a flow chart kind of a thing more than a Venn diagram.
Yeah.
I would have to agree.
It's a process, that's for sure. If you break it down to a process, you got it made, because it's very easy to repeat that.
I like that.
Plug in the pieces and spin the wheel. Just keep flowing around from piece to piece, but make sure you hit all the pieces, you know. Yeah. Very good.
That makes a holistic strategy, or a holistic, effective strategy being effective. Am I saying that right? Or correct me.
But now, one other element maybe that might be useful to think about in there is as you're looping around, you know, how do you balance the poking the box, exploring new ideas versus perfecting what you're doing? So those are kind of two dynamic things that interact with each other. Maybe something like that should be added in the loop where you kind of look out and see what's new out there, but don't get too carried away with it, but then also perfect what you're doing in the feedback loop. So periodically you have to bring in fresh blood, so to speak, into your process, right?
Yeah, that was another quote I actually wrote down from I said it wrong. It's not the Naked, whatever I said. It's the Naked brand. But the quote was, best merchants are the ones who are dictating the future and not just predicting the future. What do you guys think about that?
It's constantly adjustments with the process and what Dave and I do. I mean, Google changes their algorithm almost twice a day. If you figure it's 500 times a year, that's almost twice a day. You know, that's a lot of adjustments. Now, they don't all really move stuff, but they make major adjustments that do require you to basically look at all your processes and reevaluate. Like, will this be more effective if I change this because of this new element? John's, that's the thing. You have to be open to change, too, in your strategy. Like, if you know, I know SEOs that are still doing article marketing, for Christ's sake. I mean, you know, and that's because they never got over that one thing that worked for them 5 years ago, you know, and because they haven't really figured out, because they don't know how to measure it, that it doesn't work anymore. They don't really know that it's not working. That's what's
you know,
really
even get the ego involved in general, Terry, is bad, right? How many times have we had these, you know, C-level from these large corporations we could be consulting to, that the C-level guys will be throwing stuff down the chain that's completely bad. It's a stupid idea. It's a poor strategy. It's not a good idea. But someone has it in their head that they want to see this happen regardless. And so when that ego gets involved, you're not able to see clearly that, okay, maybe I am making a mistake here. So, yeah, when the ego starts to get involved, sometimes think you're a genius or that I know my industry better than anyone else or I know my business better, you know. You got to remove yourself and be subjective at times. You can't be so tied to it, your own ego or tied to your own business that you're unable to, you know, be nimble enough to change strategies when it's not working. Be able to recognize when it's not working. You know, how many people blame the consumer? No, that's a perfectly good ad. It's not my fault it didn't work. Stupid people out there just didn't get it. So now you're blaming your consumer as opposed to yourself. You know, and people will do that a lot. And it's like, no, maybe you're the idiot. Maybe you screwed up. You know.
I like how this kind of just organically moved around and started just moving into the future, like looking forwards, because I really didn't do a very good job at like structuring it. It just all just went and flowed the way that I think it was meant to.
You can't be living in today a business. You've got to constantly be looking to where it's going to be. You know what I mean? If you're sitting here looking at where it is now, literally by laws of physics, it's changed again. You know what I mean? Like time is hardly. Look at your watch, folks. Is there a little second hand moving? Well, if it is, time is moving ahead. So you can't live in the moment because the moment just passed. Since I started that sentence, it's already gone. So you always got to be open to hear and looking ahead. You can't be trying to stay here. Now the only thing I find the past is any use for is again, analyzing things. Where did you go wrong? Where did you go right? And looking forward to it when you go to look forward to set your next strategy. But now living in the now is never.
And this is why SEO Dojo and the meetings usually have to take a little bit longer than an hour because there's just so much here to talk about. I think we are like near out of time though, and we have to start wrapping up.
Yes. Yeah, it is time to wrap up. We have 2 wrap-up sections. The first thing we're going to do is closing thoughts, which we may even be able to skip. You guys tell me what you think because we kind of have wrapped this thing up in the last 5 minutes. So I'm going to throw it out to the panel, but whether we do it or don't do it, we're going to do these last 2 sections in this order. David's going first, then John, then Kristen, and then Terry, and then I will wrap up. And the 2 sections are closing thoughts, which we may pass on this week, and the second one is shameless self-promotion, where you get a chance to tell us what it is that you guys want to promote, as if we haven't shamelessly self-promoted the heck out of
Do I get to use the voice? Dojo. I noticed you're working on the voice there, so maybe I'll break out the voice for that.
Do another one.
That's right. I forgot we was doing all them voices the other day. I'll break out a whole bunch of them.
We had a great time planning for this show. I swear, I had a meeting, and there was Terry, and there was David, and on David's camera there were like 16 other people that kept showing up. It was really quite confusing. David is amazing at voices.
Okay, so I don't know. I'll wrap up again. I think since we're talking effectiveness, I'll just keep looping around as we have here to the whole idea of having goals. Having a process in place to establish that you're not just wandering aimlessly around in business. That you actually you break things down. You try and document as much as possible. You try to measure as much as possible, and you just keep continuously improving. Like again, I don't care if you're the #1 in your market for something. You're not sitting down and not doing anything is letting your competitors catch up to you. You got to be constantly improving, moving on. So for me, I guess that's my big takeaway is keep moving, always be setting goals, always be measuring things, and just keep the continuous improvement process rolling.
John.
I think that I want to kind of add to that, which I did add to that, is not being afraid to balancing, I should say, the bringing in new ideas and perfecting what you are currently doing. You have to balance those 2 all the time. But if you leave one of those out, you could find yourself, like David said, doing something that has long passed its effectiveness and you didn't even know it. So you've got to constantly look for new ideas and balance that with perfecting the ideas that you're now working with. So that balance between those 2 forces of perfection of what you're doing and pulling in new ideas so that you can refresh yourself and stay up to date.
Yep, I like that. I'm going to bring out the Rolodex just because I love that. And I think it's so important to always be thinking about how you can work with others. And also making sure that what you're building is for the future. You're up, Terry.
For me, it's always about, have a plan and work your plan because you have to plan to succeed.
Cool. My closing thought is actually coming from the audience, which I like to do from week to week. Aaron says you can approach, let me screen share it. You can approach business as if there's always a problem to solve, because generally there is. Something can always be improved upon. Example, our solution to our lack of visitors was solved by XYZ. Now what problem are we trying to solve today? I loved that, and I thought that wrapped up well what this is about. Be aware of what you're working on, work on it, and then don't rest on your laurels. Once you've got that work done, be aware of what you need to be working on next. And you may have to be working on a couple of things at once, but loved that, Aaron. Thank you so much. All right. Shameless self-promotion. Okay, David.
Oh, okay, let's see, what are we doing lately? Obviously, Terry and I spend a lot of our time over at the SEOtrainingdojo.com. That's right, break out the voice. And so you can find me working at verbdevelopments.com. It's the business that I've had for many, many years. And so I think that's all I really got. And well, okay, we have each week we do hangouts. I think on Wednesdays we have a news show every other week, and then we have panel shows as well. And then on Fridays we have today in about 1 hour. We have hangouts with our community members where we have a grab bag of topics.
Cool. John.
Yeah. Okay. It all is around for us here at Right Start Websites is getting that right start and helping small businesses get that right start. So we spend a lot of time going out and listening to people like David and Terry and you know, all those kinds of people, so we can kind of distill those ideas to help and find ways to make it meaningful for small businesses that we work with. So we think of ourselves as a conduit of all that experience and trying to whittle in and find those golden pieces that help the small business do something that would normally overwhelm them if they had to pick up the whole book and read it, you know, and get it down into the small piece that's going to help them move forward and keep it up to date. Always learning, always trying to find out the best way to do it.
Good deal. All right, well, I will once again plug for Lend One Hand, Aaron Segal, Tony Holder, Chris Jenkins, myself, and our silent but very crucial partner, Ammon Johns, and our wonderful community. We are trying to build a spirit and movement where everyone is...
If you're up, can Ammon actually be silent? I didn't know that. Hi, Ammon.
What we're trying to build, you ruined my flow. One hand up and one hand down, bringing everyone with you as you learn and grow.
Terry, you're up.
I build websites and do SEO mainly and marketing in general, and I work with Dave at the dojo. That's about it. You can find me under internationalwebsitebuilders.com.
And SEOpros.org.
Yep, that's an organization I formed many years ago, 2003 roughly.
Cool. Well, you guys don't be strangers to throwing your links in.
Yes.
Please do.
Yep. Please share your links. I'm going to close with a couple of things. First of all, Kristen, next week's show. I don't have the calendar up in front of me. Do you remember the subject?
No.
Okay. Look that up while I'm doing my shameless self-promotion.
Okay.
It's just a bunch of words. You guys can't see the film strip because of how I got this, but Dave's laughing at me. From week to week, these are words. They're core values. It's not that easy, actually, to remember what each show is about. But my shameless self-promotion, still working on the book on Google Plus and Hangouts on Air for business branding. And we will be in our third week of that activity this Wednesday at 11:32 a.m. for about an hour, hour and a half. If you aren't aware of what we're doing, it's kind of fun. We're actually writing a book about Hangouts on Air by using a Hangout on Air to record the content. Then we'll take it and we'll transcribe it, and then we'll polish it and make it actually legible, because spoken English is not that readable. But kind of an interesting activity. You can join us each week as we move our way slowly through the subjects that myself and Jen Foster are wanting to cover. And next week, our word of the week is friendliness. We will be back here next Friday, 9:02 a.m. to talk about friendliness with Don Nocera and Robert McPhee, who I'm just getting to know. I know Don, but Robert and I have never crossed paths, so that's going to be fun. And, of course, Monday, you can get to know our guests a little bit better on that micro HOA that's a whole lot of fun and a little bit crazy. Who are you? So we'll see you Monday. Thank you so much for watching this week. David, Terry, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your insight on effectiveness. Kristen, you were absolutely right. You nailed it. These guys are perfect fit for the subject of effectiveness. So really appreciated you guys being here.
And thank you, John.
No, thanks for having us on. Always a pleasure.
All right. And last thing.
Thanks for watching Network Roundtable this week. I hope you were inspired to pump a little harder. Take the time to subscribe to our YouTube channel and join us here on Google Plus as we continue to talk about core values. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you all next week.